And now we'll proceed to the third section of our course today, that's increased international cooperation. We mentioned just now that with the end of Cold War and then with the change of the mode of broadcasting, with the invention of DAB, DRM, and with the end of the Cold War, the end of propaganda between Taiwan and China, and of course, now we are also hoping to seek more international cooperation, and that's the one idea of international cooperation, actually, to help each other. So RTI also has transformed, especially with the rise of the internet in early 1980s. Now, for international broadcasting, we have something interesting, which is called transmission site, which a lot of people, if you do the domestic broadcasting, or if you're in the domestic broadcasting industry, you might not know what a transmission site is. Transmission site is something, is a site that broadcasts our shortwave to all these international communities, and every country basically has one to a few, and so we had quite a few at that time. I think, if I'm not mistaken, we had about 9 transmission sites, and so our transmission to Europe or to the US, sometimes by using shortwave, it's not easy to reach that target because it's so far away. It's hard for our listeners in Europe or in the US to pick up our transmission, especially those who live in Latin America, is further away. So therefore we make use of a transmission site that we rent from a partner radio station. For example, we rent Radio Miami International in Miami to help broadcast our programs to South and Central America, so that our Latin American listeners will be able to hear our programs more clearly. The same thing, we rent a transmission site in France, so that our programs in French can be heard more clearly in France and in the surrounding countries. Now, people in other countries, of course, they come to seek help and cooperation with us again. The same thing. What they do is that they hope that we can help them broadcast to China, for example, to Myanmar, to North Korea. So, which is why we also rent our transmission sites to these people who need. Now, we also, at the same time, by renting a transmission site, we hope to also seek cooperation with all these so-called major democratic countries, such as DW, Voice of America, and so on and so forth. So we hope to further enhance our exchanges with them. In the meantime, we also hope to increase our cooperation with non-diplomatic countries, for example, with Thailand, with Indonesia, with Singapore, and so on and so forth. And actually, we have had a number of MOUs with radio stations in Indonesia, in Singapore, and in Thailand. Now, our job, apart from seeking international exchanges, we also help provide training. If you need training, if you need assistance, we were more than happy to provide that kind of assistance. So in the early 1980s, when we still had diplomatic relations with Chad, with Senegal and Malawi, they would want us to help them set up the broadcasting transmitters in their respective countries. So we sent engineers to the Chad, to Senegal, and to Malawi to help them. And I myself went to Swaziland, which is known as Eswatini today, to help them with broadcasting lessons. And I stayed in Eswatini for about 2 weeks to provide them with lessons on broadcasting, how to do a report, how to do an interview, and so on and so forth. So that's what we do and what we have been doing with the international exchanges. And now we are moving to why it's important to join international organizations, especially for RTI. And as you know that we have a very limited space in the international community when you talk about diplomacy. So RTI in that respect has to expand our international organizations, with any organizations in the world. So there are major of international organizations that RTI had wanted to join and are now the members. The first one is the AIB. Well, in 1999, we joined the AIB. AIB is Association of International Broadcasting. Why is AIB so important? It's based in London. Well, the reason is because that, Radio Taiwan International, anything from Taiwan is not allowed to join international broadcasting unions. So we are not allowed to join, events like the Olympic Games. So you can imagine that, we are not allowed to join a lot of organizations. So we tried our best to join the AIB. And so for us, we think that AIB is a part of the broadcasting union, so it's very important, so we try to join them. In 2017, PRC, China tried to join the AIB, but they tried to donate quite a lot of money, but they had one condition, that's the termination of RTI membership. And actually you can see the relevant information if you click on what I offered here. So that's one thing, AIB. The second important organization that we joined is back in 2006, the CBA. CBA is Commonwealth Broadcasting Association, and in 2014, CBA changed the name to PMA, it's Public Media Alliance. So PMA in a way only includes countries or radio stations, the public broadcasters only. So only public broadcasters join the PMA. So very luckily, RTI and PTS, Public Television Service, both of us are members of PMA. And none of the radio broadcasters in China are members of PMA. The same thing as AIB. None of the broadcasters in China have today joined the AIB. AIB has a lot of important members that you can imagine, all the big names that you can think of, NHK, BBC, CNA, Central News Asia, Central News Asia from the Media Corps, and CNN, so on and so forth. So Al Jazeera, for example, all these are very big companies in the world, and they are all members of the AIB. Now, in the international organization, in the area of international organizations and how RTI has sought partnership with, RTI signed an MOU with one organization in Bangkok known as Asia Center, and our cooperation actually began in 2023, and at that time we held a forum in Bangkok with the cooperation, with the partnership of Asia Center, which RTI is going to do that again this year in 2024, and also in mid-April this year, we're going to have a forum with them as well, along with Google. Our service has also expanded. RTI, we have not only tried to seek cooperation with media institutions around the world. We're also hoping to increase our visibility in the area of meeting with our listeners. So we started after RTI became a public broadcaster in 1998, we started to have more interaction with our listeners worldwide. And until today, incredibly, we have established 20 listeners clubs in 11 countries in the world. And all these listeners clubs have their own presidents that we elected. So they help us organize listeners meetings. And how do we establish a club? We go visit the country and we hold a listeners club meeting, and we choose a club president. And the club president is responsible for collecting reception reports and all information related to RTI. Now, this is what we do with the listeners club meetings. But back to the radio stations, our cooperation is not merely with radio programs, but we also exchange our personnel. So, for example, like radio Deutsche Welle, the German broadcaster, in the past we would send some of our radio personnel to Deutsche Welle to be trained for about 6 months to 1 year, or even the shortest period would be 3 months. And exchange of programming is very common. We have exchange of programming with basically major radio stations in the world. And today, with the rise of social media, more and more international broadcasters are coming to us to work together. Also, they hope to increase their visibility in the Asia Pacific. So RTI is the best platform for that.